Okay, welcome back. So what we want to do in this video is to start implementing the various aspects of detection as code in our program. So the way we interact with QRadar programmatically is using an API. And I'm not going to go into details uh, as to why or what that is. Um, it's not the purpose of the course, but basically, an API is just a method we can use code to interact um, with a system. So I'm going to create a function that is going to create the API request for us, and let's call it build request. And we want to know what the URL is that we're going to send the request to. Let's call it base URL, and we're going to grab the value from the QRadar URL text, which is basically the text entry in our uh, graphical user interface. So the user is filling the URL and the variable is getting the value from that box using the text function. After that, we want to construct our header, which is going to be sent in the API request as well. And we're going to use a sec token, and the sec token is something that you must supply in every API request. That's your method of authenticating against QRadar. And we're also going to grab the value of that from a sec token entry, which is another UI element. And our content type is going to be JSON, and our accept type is going to be JSON as well. You can consider this just like boilerplate code that we need in order to construct API requests. And now we're going to start sending and receiving data using the requests Python library. And we're going to use a get request. And we're going to use the base URL and append the analytics API, which includes all of the rules that we have on the platform. And we're going to use, to get only the name field, whether the rule is enabled, and the ID of the rule. We're going to use the headers that we created, and we're going to set verify to false so that we don't have to work with certificates. So we're going to store that response in a variable JSON format, and we're going to return it. And basically every function that calls this build request is going to get an object that is the request's result of the request. Now let's create the function that actually populates the user interface with the data. Call that get rules. And let's call this response called build request first, because we want to have the response of the API request. Then we're going to create an empty list. And for every element in our response, we are going to append the name of the rule into the list. And then we're going to populate the user interface itself. So for every rule that we're going to have in the list that we created, we're going to assign a Q standard item to it and append it in a row manner. Okay, so after we've done this, we want to bind this function to a button. So we have to go to Setup UI and just slightly below it, I'm going to create an event listener on the Get Rules button, so that every time it observes a clicked event, it's going to trigger a function call on Get Rules. And that looks good. So let's try that out. So you want to get a sec token first. You can create it from the admin tab of your deployment, from authorized services, and make sure to give it admin roles and save it in a file, because once you view it once, you cannot view it again. So I have my token here, and the QRadar URL is going to look like this. That's the address of your deployment. So now, once we click the Get Rules button, it's going to call the Get Rules function, because we've used an event listener that is activating the function every time that the button is pressed. So let's give it a try. Awesome, it worked. So you see that basically when we click the button, we have a build request that gets triggered. It's saving the response into a variable that gets passed into Get Rules. And the Get Rules function is basically iterating on each element in the response and populates the user interface with the name of the rule. Okay, so there we go. So in the next video, we're going to see how we can use the API in order to export and import rules. So I will see you in the next time.